Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 15 of Legends of Tomorrow called Destiny. This is our penultimate episode, and boy, do we get a really nice twist this episode. Last time, of course, we left off with like the what in the world is going on with the Time Masters working with Vandal Savage, and here we get the explanation for that. And it's a pretty satisfying one in my book. That, of course, the Time Masters believe that they know that the Thanagarians are coming to attack Earth, and they believe that the world needs to be united under one leader in order to fight this off. Now, there's some questionable logic in play here, but at least this viewpoint at least makes some sense. So let's just kind of get right into the deal. Now, Earth being attacked by Thanagarians like that, if this sounds familiar to you, then you've probably watched the old Justice League cartoon back in the day, and that was a big deal in that series. And of course, Thanagarians and Thanagar have some small connections to Hawkman and Hawkgirl. So exactly what that kind of means for the future, well, that's certainly something to keep in mind. But here, I think we might also be seeing a hint as to what's going to be the big overarching idea for season two. And surprisingly enough, they might be going for a prevent the alien invasion storyline, which is sort of surprising because I always got the kind of the idea that aliens and outer space stuff was sort of off limits in the CW universe, but apparently not. And it does sort of make sense that they're going in this direction. Of course, we have two Hawkman and Hawkgirl uh, in this series, and as I said, very strong connections to Thanagar and Thanagarians there. We've had Nth Metal again, very much associated with Thanagar. So yeah, if that now granted that's just a possibility, but still, no matter what happens, it looks like this alien invasion might still be on the table. So, a ragtag group of heroes out there trying to prevent an alien invasion? Yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool idea for season two. And especially if they kind of get to explore some of the mythology of Hawkman and Hawkgirl a little bit more. And sort of, I mean, if you're going to start bringing in outer space stuff, then oh my god, the possibilities are just mind boggling. Um, people have been talking a lot about the idea of Booster Gold showing up on the show. Um, I don't think that's going to be happening because I was reading an article today talking with Mark Guggenheim talking about how he's kind of trying to get a Booster Gold movie up and running. So if they're going to do Booster Gold on the big screen, it would sort of make sense that they would probably not want to use him on television just to sort of avoid diluting the brand, as it were. But Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, that's a possibility. If for whatever reason Jax and Martin Stein don't come back next season, someone like Jaime would be a great way to sort of bring in that young person character. Of course, then we'd all be wondering, like, well, where's Ted Cord? Because we know Cord Industries exists in the Arrowverse. So anyway, but the thing with this whole plot is the Time Masters believe, okay, Earth needs to be united under one leader in order to successfully fight off the Thanagarians. Well, the time they give it is like something like I think it was like 15 years after Vandal Savage would have been finished conquering the world, which is probably not enough time to rebuild the world sufficiently to fight off an advanced alien species. And then there's of course the question is, well, why don't the Time Masters just warn Earth of the impending alien invasion, and give them sufficient time to get ready? But okay, whatever. And I really like how Rip sort of reacts to that particular situation. He just basically says, Vandal Savage, the Thanagarians, it doesn't really matter. Somebody's going to come in there and basically still have their boot on humanity's neck. All you're changing is whether or not it's a human or an alien. And Rip is perfectly right. And, this sort of is a nice turnaround from him from what happens after the Time Masters, like Druce, sort of reveal, like, Oh, by the way, everything you've been doing, it's because we've been manipulating you, and you've in fact, in some ways, been helping Vandal Savage all along. Now, in reading some stuff from the way people reacted to this, I saw some people who were like, "Well, then isn't everything that's happened in this point up to now pointless?" Oh my god, I hate when people take this attitude towards situations like this so damn much. And the one I was reading, I think that was like over somebody over at comicbookresources.com said, "Well, I guess there's all that characterization." Like what in the hell? Okay? Yeah. Yeah, there's this thing called characterization, character development. That's kind of the real big driving force. I mean, you could have the most damn amazing plot in the world, but if you don't give an F about the characters, then it's for nothing. And in case you haven't noticed, at the end of the day, the vast majority of TV shows and books and movies and whatnot generally have reasonably simple plots. Now, if you start, for example, start explaining X-Men lore and all this other stuff, yeah, it gets ridiculous and complicated. But this doesn't invalidate any of this. I mean, I really like how that bit where like Heatwave kind of like after they find out all this, like smacks Ray in the arm and goes, "Hey, did the Time Masters manipulate me into doing that?" And I think that was also the writer's subtle way of saying, okay, this is what Druce is saying, this is what the Time Master's line is, but it's actually bull. Okay, the Time Masters. I mean, Druce even says like free will is an illusion. Well, again, Heatwave smacking Ray in the arm subtly proves that's not true. And it's not a case of there is some great force called destiny that robs us of the validity of our free will. No, everything that happened here is the will of the Time Masters. It's people with superior technology tricking and manipulating other people. Now, granted, they're doing it on an absolutely epic scale, but still, I mean, it's just really, I mean, it's just ridiculous to sort of say that one, that the Time Masters are right and that free will is an illusion, and two, that this revelation means that everything they did was pointless. No, it's not. Again, and the characterization is the main reason why. Also, it's a storytelling device. You have to knock the heroes low so that they can rise again. And this episode is meant to show the characters at their absolute lowest points. It seems like everything they've done has been for naught and has in fact been helping their worst enemy. And yet, by the end of the episode, they turn things around and rise up against the Time Masters and destroy them. Which, again, makes them even more amazing, more heroic, more legendary. So, I mean, the idea of describing all of this as being pointless, that just shows a profoundly poor understanding of storytelling. And screw people who think that. Seriously. Look, I don't sit here and pretend to be some sort of literature professor or great expert on storytelling. I'm just a guy who's watched a lot of movies, read a lot of books, read a lot of comics, and since I've started acting as a critic, have come to understand certain patterns and stuff. And while everyone is entitled to their opinion, let me put it this way: I think that poorly everyone is entitled to an opinion, but informed opinions are more worthy of respect than uninformed ones. Opinions that are well thought out are more valuable than just knee-jerk reactions. And again, I'm not sitting here claiming I'm some sort of an expert on this sort of nonsense, that I'm some sort of great storytelling master. I'm just somebody who has noticed patterns. And yeah, it. You know what? I'm just really annoyed at this, so I'm just going to let it go. Okay, so let's kind of get on to what's going on with the characters more on a personal level. And everybody I like in this episode kind of had their little moments. I thought Kendra's stuff was a little weak because I mean she's just a prisoner of Vandal Savage most of the time. Although she does get that moment at the end where she gets to kind of laugh in his face. That was kind of cool. We don't get to see Carter at all. And I really like how the fact that it's explained that the Time Masters are actually, in a way, giving Vandal Savage orders. And then at the end of it all, when the Time Masters are destroyed, Vandal Savage is at best slightly annoyed, just like, Time Masters are gone. But hey, I still got myself a time machine. This is, this is still gonna work out. And it does. He still gets to go and kill Rip's wife and kid. So, not good for Rip. And speaking of which, yeah, man, Rip is just an absolutely broken dude after Druce kind of lays the whole situation out for him. And again, Rip is the great example of what I was just saying earlier. He starts off very early in this episode. He is knocked to his absolute lowest point of everything that has ever happened to him since the show started. And yet, by the end of it all, he rises up and helps to destroy the Time Masters. Again, it's that. It is that storytelling. It is that character development. That's what really makes for good stories. Not the idea of something being pointless or not. I mean, if something is pointless, it's like imagine an episode of a TV show that you could completely chuck out the window and it wouldn't change the plot. Like that episode, that really crappy episode of the Battlestar Galactica reboot, The Woman King, acknowledged by the show's creator as being the absolute as pretty much being one of the worst episodes of the show. Yeah, that was one of those episodes you could throw that episode out of the way, out the airlock, and it wouldn't change the overall plot. Nothing of any real importance happened in that episode. And well, all right, let's just go on. All right. But yeah, that was a really garbage episode of Battlestar Galactica. Which, anywho, um, let's see what else we have to talk about. Let's see. Oh yeah, I definitely liked that sort of little thing with they were doing with Jax and Stein. People kind of commented like, why does Stein apparently keep roofies in his office? And well, here we go. We get that explanation from it. He was tipped off by future Jax, and those two have that really nice moment where Stein kind of gets a little bit of a kind of little like, dude, you're being a dick. Knock it off. And I kind of like how he has that Jax says that moment like, look, I know I'm gonna be pissed at you after this, but I'll get over it. And they kind of have that moment where Stein, where Jax says like, look, I know all the stuff you try to do is just your way of looking out for me. And Stein, you can see that he's visibly very proud of the way Jax has grown as a person. And of course, it's very satisfying to see Jax swoop in and help save the day when the team is trying to destroy the MacGuffin gadget that controls the Oculus that's built to look suspiciously what I'm guessing is a park somewhere in Vancouver. How very courteous of the Time Masters to do that. Oh well, Supergirl's going to suddenly start looking very Vancouver very soon, so why not, right? Okay, let's see. What else do we have to talk about? I really don't have a huge amount of stuff to say about Ray, but I do like that he had that moment where he was like, "Okay, Rip says I'm gonna die. Well, if that's the case, then sacrificing myself in this manner is a worthy way to go out." And then Heatwave more or less takes his place. It kind of reminds us that these two do have a little bit of a bond. And there's also that scene where he and Ray are talking about um, you know Mick being brainwashed again by the Time Masters. And Ray says, "Well, okay, the first time you said you focused on staying focused on hatred is what lets you keep who you were. What was it this time?" And Mick says, "Well, I was thinking about the team." And then it's like, dude, if you ever tell me about that, I'll totally kill you. I mean, that's a great moment there that Heatwave acknowledges, like, yeah, these are everybody else here. I care about them. Previously it was very clear the only person he really cared about was Snart, and look at their relationship. And of course, this is really reflected when Snart again sacrifices himself to save Mick. Again, showing that whatever else, everything that's happened between those two, Mick is probably his only true friend in the world. And then there's of course that whole bit with Snart acknowledging that he was attracted to Sarah, and that's something they kind of been hinting at for quite some time, very very subtly. But here Snart lays it out. He puts his card on the table. Fittingly enough, Sarah was he was fiddling around with some cards at the time. I don't know if that was a little subtle nod that the writers were doing, but it's a nice touch. And I like how Sarah is just like, no. But of course, at the end, Snart is there demonstrating that, yeah, for whatever his flaws, he is willing to sacrifice his life for the team, for the sake of humanity, which is something he probably would never have done in the first episode. I mean, that's part of why we see that flashback there, where after Rip walks off, he starts just like, man, F this, I'm out of here. This is stupid. I'm never going to get those 5 minutes of my life back. Again, it shows tremendous growth on his part that he was willing to do that. And, he gets himself a kiss for his efforts. Now, I don't think anybody's seriously believing that he's dead, especially seeing as how this kind of comes right on the heels of it being announced that Wentworth Miller had signed on to continue to play Snart, not just on Legends of Tomorrow, not just on The Flash, but apparently also on Arrow. So he's going to be bouncing around all over the CW verse next season, and I'm all for this. Captain Cold versus Green Arrow, hot damn, sign me up. Send Malcolm Merlin to Central City again to fight the Flash. This is great, man. I mean, Wentworth Miller, John Barrowman, so damn many really great actors are doing stuff on the CW shows these days, and it is awesome. I love it. Um, let's see. Who else do we have to talk about? Am I forgetting anybody? Oh yeah, it was really satisfying to see Heatwave kill that jerk Time Master. And I just noticed something. These robes the Time Masters wear, these black robes and stuff? Don't they kind of look like the robes the future guys wear in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? I mean, they don't have the collar thing going on, but they're oddly similar. I just now thought of that. Also, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Fantastic movie. Didn't care for Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, though. Let's see. Am I forgetting anything else that I wanted to talk about? Um, nope. I don't really think there's anything left for me. Oh yeah, the whole thing with the music when they sabotage the time ships. That was hilarious. Also, some of those time ships had really badass paint jobs. I mean, some of them were a little gaudy. I was looking at those and like, man, those things look like something that would have, been on a toy shelf back in the 1980s. But yeah, it's a superhero show. Gaudy colors are kind of par for the course. Um, but yeah, I think that covers everything that I had to say about this episode. Man, this is a good one. And next week is our season finale called Legendary. And oh man, I have a feeling this is going to be fantastic. The show's had its highs and lows. It's had a few weak episodes, but for the most part, Legends of Tomorrow has been a really, really fun ride. And I can't wait to see how it ends. And I'm sure they're going to set up some really nice shock to leave us wanting more in season two when they wrap up next week. And I can't wait to see what it's going to be. So, guys, with that said, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi, and also join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.